Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to episode 14 of your viewer submissions. These are the stories that you send me of your experience with true crime, and I read them for you. As always, thank you so much to everybody who is vulnerable enough to send a story in the name of raising awareness and trying to make something good come out of something so horrific that happened in your life. I hope you know how brave, appreciated, valued you are. And also thank you to everybody in the comments who are always so loving and supportive. It truly warms my heart to see you guys all interact. If you like content like this, a little birdie told me that there might be somebody in the true crime space who is also going to start doing this. And she is also such an amazing advocate for victims, especially domestic violence, mental health. I'm gonna let her be the one to announce if she's gonna do this or not, but very excited and honored and touched that she reached out to me to let me know that this is something that she wanted to do and asked my permission, which she absolutely didn't have to, but it just goes to show her character and what a gem she is. So there will be more content like this available to you by other creators. I know that C. Jades does something similar where she reads through her Reddit community, and those are usually like paranormal viewer submissions. Very exciting, especially, in October. If you're a fan of anti-MLM content, Hannah Alonso does this. And my girl, Cece Suarez, Chelsea, she is doing this again. She used to do this before. I love how open and honest she is about reading them and why she stopped for a while. I have a lot of similarities to her. I think that's why I relate to her so much. She stopped doing them for a little bit because she is dyslexic, as I'm about to say, and so am I. I can't even say dyslexic. So it is really, really hard to read sometimes, especially when, you got a lot going on here, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of ADHD, mix that in with a little dyslexia. These are not the easiest to read, let alone receive, because they're heavy subjects. But anyways, Chelsea is focusing on a lot of scam content, anti-MLM as well. But I think that's very important because I do think that so many of you probably have a scam story that you want to share and bring attention to. So if you do, go on over to Chelsea Suarez. She is in just like the last haul of her 100,000 subscriber goal. She's so close to getting there. So go send her some love. Tell her you're a Sippendale and that we love her and we support her, and she's going to get there, no problem. All right. That being said, today I'm going to do a little bit different. So I'm going to do your viewer submissions, but I'm also going to show TikToks that you've also tagged me in, because I know that a lot of these TikToks people are asking for their story to get some more traction and get out there. And so I'd really love to also be able to highlight that as well, because like this viewer submission, sometimes there's just not enough for a full video, but I still want people to be aware of it and allow people who might not have a very large platform to share their story. And then you can also head on over to those TikToks too and then send some love. I will make sure to tag all of those in the description. All right. Thank you for bearing with me there. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. If you have a story that you want to share, you can do so at sherrilynstories@gmail.com. And then if you have a TikTok, you can tag me on the case on TikTok, but it's preferred if you could either copy the link to it or download the video and then upload it to a Google Drive or email me that link, and then I can get to it, just because sometimes if there's too many notifications, I'll miss it and I don't want to miss it. All right, now we're ready. All right, our first story says, I've listened to your channel for years and became completely obsessed with this new series of reading subscriber stories. I have a ton of stories to tell, but I never thought I could pick just one until recently. Hopefully it doesn't get lost in the sauce. When I was 11, my first day in middle school, I immediately bonded with a girl in my homeroom. We became instant friends and still are to this day. My home life, as well as hers, was rocky to say the least. My parents were never around and we trauma bonded over many things, but one thing in particular, her brother. Her brother was around 16 at the time. He was chaotic and dangerous. He would chase her around her home with knives and hammers, trying to kill her as a joke. Her mother was also weaved into the violence he caused, and to this day, I never understood why she didn't report him. It got to the point where I got a call from my best friend telling me that she and her mother were trapped in her room and her brother was stabbing the door repeatedly trying to break in. My mom called the cops, but the situation resolved itself before they arrived and the mother didn't press charges. My tiny 11-year-old self thought the best way to help would be to fix him. He was a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi, among other things, and we would have deep conversation about why people deserve to be treated right no matter what. That's so sweet of you to want to try to take that on, but oh my gosh, a little 11-year-old, that's so heavy and not at all your responsibility. We talked for months and I thought I was actually making a difference. I was doing my best to help my friend. One day after getting into an argument with him the night prior, my family and I came home to her brother trying to break in. Like the middle of the day, we drive up and he is standing there with a knife in one hand and picking the lock with the other. It was more abnormal for me to be out with my family than for me to be left alone at home, which is what I'm sure he was counting on. We got out of the car and my parents were like, WTF, obviously, but then left me to talk to him alone. I am still flabbergasted that they allowed me to do this. What were they thinking? I mean, you said it, not me. I talked to him on my driveway about why he was doing this and why he walked across town to harm me. He denied any wrongdoing, saying he just wanted to check in on me after the argument we had last night. Yeah, I just wanted to check on you with this knife in my hand and trying to pick your log. Anyways, this went on for 6 more months or so until we eventually broke contact. My friend moved schools and I didn't hear from her much. We still keep in touch and she even spent most of her 20s living with me. Every now and again, letting me in on the tea that was her brother. Over a 10-year span, he would end up in jail for statutory R, assault, disturbing the peace, and domestic violence, never serving enough time or getting the obvious help he needed. Oh my gosh, why am I not surprised? Come on. The system is broken. The system is broken. Recently, I received a call from her crying. She could barely talk, but all I could make out was his name. I immediately Googled him because I just knew it was something. Turns out, after his last stint in jail, he came home, got a girlfriend who had 2 small children. Oh God, I don't like where this is going. Moved into her home within the first couple of weeks of knowing her and started abusing her. Multiple neighbors said that they could hear fighting on the regular and sounds of things breaking. One neighbor even said he told them he was scared of her kicking him out. Well, he decided to do the unthinkable and murdered this poor girl with her 2 small ones home. He shot her multiple times and killed her in her bedroom, then left. Her oldest daughter found her. Oh my gosh. He later took his own life. Whew. I find myself often wondering if I dodged a bullet that day, if my fate would have been different if I was left alone. I do carry guilt with this story as there were so many opportunities for us all to do something. I don't know what, but something that may have helped to prevent this. I ache for this woman and her children who had no idea the terrors that awaited her. I share this story in hopes to bring awareness to domestic violence. I hope that others in similar situation as the neighbors report loud arguments and glass breaking, situations that feel off, and to the mamas who are scared of their children to say something. I feel most devastated by our justice system, but that's no surprise. Love and tons of light. Whoa, that was really, really a lot. First of all, oh my gosh, I can imagine, feeling guilt, and that's understandable, but I hope that you can move past that and not. And I know that's easier said than done, but there is literally nothing that you could have done. And I like that you bring up, into the mamas who are too scared of their children to say something. That can mean so many things. And I think that's very important to bring up too, because it could be that you're too scared of them because you think something's going to happen to you if you say something, or also too scared because you don't know what's going to happen to them if they, go to jail. But it's these situations where even if you can catch that early enough, even to get help, it doesn't have to be calling a police officer because you're scared, but when you're seeing those signs and somebody not being able to deal with those emotions appropriately, it doesn't mean you've done something wrong and that getting help admits defeat and failure and that you're a bad parent. But at least, then if you've done that, you wanted what's best for them in the long run. You're protecting them in the long run, and you're also protecting other people. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that this was probably not easy at all for you, especially since you said that like you hold guilt. I hope that you can work through that. I just keep going back to imagining like a little 11-year-old trying to take on this task of helping somebody like this, and it just breaks my heart. All right, this is our next story. It says, "Hi Sherilyn, I'm from the UK and called Emily. Feel free to use my name. I admire the work you do and how you're able to make us laugh and cry at times whilst respecting victims and their families. Random side note, I am expecting my second baby in 2 months and I found out she is a girl. Hopefully she's as cute as Clout Baby." Aw, I am sure she will be. And this is so unrelated, but how embarrassing that in the last viewer submission, I had no idea that I messed up saying Clout Baby hearts you too. I just went straight, fully confident saying Heart Baby clouts you too, or something like that. And then I started seeing it in the comments. I'm like, Heart Baby clouts you too? What does this mean? And it's like, oh, you're quoting me. I didn't even know I said that. Clout Baby hearts you too is what I meant to say. Okay. My story is about my uncle and what happened to him when he was a teenager. He's 49 now and is something he still carries with him and with my family. To this day, he suffers PTSD and has had counseling for most of his adult life. This happened in the UK in the city of Leeds many years ago now. My uncle Gary was 14 and was out every night with friends after school without fail. One night he went out with a friend who came and asked if he was playing out but didn't come home when the street lights came on. This worried my grandparents, and of course, when the night got darker and later and he still wasn't home, they went out looking and searching for him to no avail. They asked all of his friends and people in the area where he was and if they knew anything, but no one did and no one had seen him. Police were then called and came out to look for him. As the days grew longer, with still no information, my mom and my aunt were sent to live with other family members because my grandparents couldn't cope and were worried another child of theirs could be at risk of disappearing. Oh my gosh. My mom, who was 11 at the time, always says it was the worry and the confusion of not knowing and thinking someone was going to come and take the rest of her family. Oh my God, I can't imagine. She thought that it was an invisible monster who took children and wouldn't sleep. Eventually, after 4 long days, I imagine it felt like forever. Yeah, a dog walker who was out walking in the woods came across a strange looking mound of dirt. Oh my gosh. And the dog would not leave it alone. The dog kept going back to this area, which thank God he did, because the dog walker felt something was off and decided to kick up the dirt and start digging because he said he had a strong feeling something was off. As he did, he heard faint sounds coming from the soil and called the police. Once the police arrived, apparently it happened pretty quickly because they knew my uncle was a missing child in the area and dug up the soil. They found my uncle. He had been tortured with an axe taken to his skull and face. Oh my God, which knocked him unconscious. He was burned with marks all over his back and then finally buried to hide his body. He was only a child at the time, just 14. When the police found him, they didn't think he was alive. However, by some miracle, he had a very slight pulse and was able to be rushed to the hospital. Oh my God, your uncle is a miracle. When my Nana and Granddad arrived, they were told if it had been even an hour later when he was found, he would have never made it. After my uncle was able to make a full recover physically and told them what happened. It was actually a 17-year-old schoolboy who had asked my aunt out on a date, but she rejected him. What the? To get back at her, he asked my uncle Gary to play on his bike after school and had all of this planned. The axe he got from his dad's shed along with lighter fluid and a shovel. What the is wrong with people? It turned out after my uncle was attacked, stripped of all of his clothing, urinated on by the boy, he made my uncle dig the grave himself before attacking him with the axe and burning him. Holy mother of what? Let me at him. My uncle has physically recovered other than scars, but mentally he never has. He has flashbacks and suffers really badly with depression and PTSD. I can't imagine the fear he went through or the devastation of my grandparents when they heard this was what their little boy went through. The rest of the family suffered too. My aunt blamed herself for rejecting the boy and not realizing or blaming this boy to begin with, and my mom has always carried it with her. When I was young, I used to always think it was unfair that I couldn't play out for as long as the other kids. or go to friends' houses without it being a long process of speaking to the other child's parents. And it came to a head one day when I had snuck out to play at my next door neighbor's house, and I will never forget hearing my mom screaming and crying on the doorstep thinking I was missing. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine like the trickle effect of the trauma here. That was when she told me she just loved me and she was so scared of another person she loved being taken and hurt, and that bad things happen to normal families like ours, not just people on the news. Thank you for letting me share my uncle's story. He's now in the police and tries to put away the evil in the world. I know my story ended happier than many others who write in, but this is trauma that has affected my family and therefore the Sippendales' lives too. Thank you so much, Emily. Oh my gosh. I'm actually just speechless, and I have like chills right now. I cannot imagine what your uncle went through in the 4 days. Like, let's all go back and remember, this wasn't like 4 hours. This was 4 days he was gone. Like, your grandparents going through this, your mom and your aunt, as their lives go on, of course you would parent and think like that too. I mean, I am very much quite a helicopter mom and very anxious about things. And I'm working on giving my oldest daughter more freedom. She's 16 now. And she's even told me, Mom, like, sometimes you make me scared and fearful because you're always like, okay, well, watch for this. Don't do this. Oh my God, I just watched this on Dateline. And I try not to project that onto my family and my kids. But the more I even read these stories from you guys, like, who feel connected to me and like family and friends to me, and now there's like even this tighter connection, it really makes me more protective. And I want to tell myself that it's okay. I mean well, and I know that, like you said, you're like, okay, well, why can't I stay out with everybody? And then it probably clued into you and gave your mom a little bit more of a pass on your end because, like, she just cares and she worries and doesn't want anything to happen. But it's very interesting of like how that balance is found, because I really don't know what it is. I'm sending so much love to your whole family, Emily, your uncle. Thank you so much for sending this in. Wow, I'm just speechless. Okay, our next story says, "Hi Sherilyn, my name's Nicole." My sister's name's Nicole. I was gonna be like, my name's Nicole. It's not Nicole. My sister's name's Nicole. "I found your channel recently and it's great. Thank you for sharing people's stories and letting them be heard and known. So back in the early 2000s, my mom, who is a single mother, was a waitress and in her spare time was a volunteer firefighter. Oh my gosh, what a badass. The fire captain, William Bill Marshall, and my mom became friends, and he asked her if she would mind coming over to his house once in a while to help with cleaning and that he would pay her. She agreed, and so every so often she would go over to his house and clean and sometimes cook for him. I would go with her sometimes, and I remember one time we made enchiladas with him and we had a good time laughing and talking the whole time. My siblings and I would also walk to the fire station or self-defense classes since it was right across the road, and we would see Bill and he would talk to us and ask us how we were doing. Then in 2007, we found out Bill had been arrested for a murder he had committed back in 1984. He had been fired from a KFC, and a few days later, on October 30th in 1984, went back at closing to rob the safe. When he couldn't get into the safe, he killed Robin Hoynes, who was the closing manager, by stabbing her twice in the back and then slitting her throat. They couldn't gather enough evidence at the time, and his girlfriend had lied about his whereabouts, so he got away with it for 23 years. Finally, in 2007, he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Okay, whoa, so this all got uncovered while he was the fire captain. Okay. Like, at first I was like, oh, you guys found out about this and he had already served his time and then this is what he was doing, but he was just like, just roaming free. Oh my gosh. Looking back at how he was a fire captain, yeah, and how we went into his house and trusted him sends chills down my spine to this day. Dateline did an episode called The Night Before Halloween. I hope Robin's family is healing and finds peace, and I'm glad that she finally got the justice she deserves. Rest in peace, Robin. Thank you for reading and sharing, if you do end up sharing it. Sorry, it's so long and kind of jumbled. I'm not very good at putting everything together coherently. You did great. I'm loving you and your channel. Keep up the awesome work. Wow. Thank you so much, Nicole, for sending that in. Holy Hannah Montana. I can't imagine what that would be like, like being in somebody's house, not knowing that this was their past life. I always wonder that, do I know somebody who's capable of this, or has done something like this and I've come into contact with them. Oh gosh. I have to look up this Dateline episode. I feel like I've seen it. Okay, the next one is a TikTok that I was tagged in by Brewer Brouer on TikTok.
One thing about me is my aunt went missing. It's been over 3 years since she's last been seen living. At first, my cousin's dad said her mom had died, but once the police got involved, Jeff claimed she was alive. Right at this time, Jeff hired a criminal attorney, and manslaughter is this attorney's specialty. The police got a warrant and searched their entire home, but her whereabouts are still completely unknown. All my aunt's belongings were found at the house. Her wallet, keys, passport were all hidden by her spouse. A nationwide search proved her death was never reported, and the DHS confirmed she hadn't traveled as Jeff reported. After 5 months, the police said the case was cold. We don't have any answers, is what we were told, but I'll never give up searching. The truth is all I want. Please help us raise awareness. We need justice for my aunt.
Oh my God, that was amazing. When I saw this, I immediately recognized her. She's so beautiful. I saw this case on Dateline and she's got hashtag justice for Angela Green. So I believe it was months and months that Angela's family didn't know that she was missing. And her husband had been telling his daughter very like conflicting, confusing stories. And she wasn't really sure what to do. And then eventually she went to her aunt, this girl's mom, and was like, my mom's missing. Like, I haven't talked to her in forever. And then his story changed. It's just wild. I'm pretty sure Kendall Ray also did an episode on it. So yeah, it's the hashtag they're using is justice for Angela Green. You all also have the link so that you can go and follow her case and story on her niece's TikTok. I'm just mind blown about all of his excuses and how much his story has changed. As far as I know, he's not in prison. I'm quite sure the family has a petition to have like a more aggressive investigation done. So please head on over there, send your love. I know you always do. You guys are the best. I don't even have to ask. All right. The next TikTok that I was tagged in, this is from C. Rosie. C. Rosie is who tagged me in it. And it is a video from Priest, JPRESTTT. Again, I'll have all of these linked for you. Okay, so if you weren't able to read everything, the first punch, it says unwanted Hulu doc on her murder. This is about her sister. Multiple inaccuracies in news articles, 4-year trial. Murderer files appeal attempts. Murderer tries for a retrial. Constant reminders. Kids grow up without their aunt. So her page has a lot about her sister, and her hashtag is justice for Brooke. This actually is another case that Kendall covered, and I think this is like one of the just most inspiring cases that I've seen Kendall do for this family. The Hulu doc that was done, that the family they have a petition going to actually have it removed because it was done without their consent. There was a lot of inaccuracies. It very much favors the perpetrator. And I can't imagine how traumatizing that is. So Kendall actually reached out to the family and told the story in Brooke's point of view, the victims, which you know is so important over here and should be so important on all true crime channels. The Hulu documentary that she is referring to is called Dead Asleep, and I'm going to link Kendall's video to that because it says the murder of Brooke Preston, the truth about Hulu's doc, Dead Asleep. Kendall is just so inspiring and somebody I look up to so much in the true crime community. Just her passion and her work that she does with victims, families, survivors. It's really inspiring. It's what keeps me focused on my goal of wanting to do the same thing and just building up my platform to be able to give a bigger voice to those who don't have one. And she's just like a great example of what ethical true crime is. And this video that we just watched on TikTok is a great example of what not ethical true crime is. I'm sorry, but if a loved one asks you to not do something because it's re-traumatizing. At the very, very least, if you had a project that is already out there, there should be an agreement or something worked out where the victims' families or loved ones feel involved, whether that's having a portion of your profits or proceeds go to a foundation honoring them. This is a huge, huge topic right now of conversation, and I think it's an important one to have, and it's definitely one that I will be having on the return of the podcast. But this is definitely something that has been on my mind and something that I really want to talk about, and I think that that's a good place to do it, and this video is a prime example. I just ache for her family, her to have to do all of this work, to have a petition about something that is inaccurate out there, reliving trauma, and at the end of the day, their hands are tied and there's nothing that they can do unless they bring attention and go through all of this and have petitions signed and have to, rally and do all of this stuff. I mean, look at the Elmquists. I'll be at a rally this Saturday to fight for justice for David, and it's just heartbreaking that this is what loved ones have to do for years and years and years to get proper justice and have the right thing done. All right, I have another viewer submission. This one says, "Hi Sherilyn, thank you for taking the time to share stories and giving your viewers a voice. I'm not that good at writing, but I think this story deserves to be talked about as an example of why we need to take mental health seriously. Trigger warning, murder of children and mental health issues. It was a family of 4, a mother aged 48, 2 sons, one aged 20, Peterson, and one 8, and a daughter aged 15. At the time, Peterson was homeless, but his mom allowed him back in her house, telling her friends she was scared of him, but she was a softie and couldn't stand the thought of him living on the street. Weeks prior to allowing Peterson back into the house, his mother repeatedly sought help for her son, whom she told friends and a social worker she was frightened of and did not want him at home because she had a 15-year-old and an 8-year-old to think about. On July 13th, she again repeatedly contacted police and mental health services, and her son Peterson was admitted to hospital. However, he was discharged after doctors ruled he did not meet the criteria for an involuntary admission to a psychiatric hospital, and they considered he was not at risk to harming himself or others. I can't get the exact date, but either in the early hours of the next day or the day after he got released, the police got a call from a nearby petrol station. There waiting for them was Peterson, who led them to the house where the bodies of his family were discovered. As they opened the door, the officer saw a boy 8 and his mother 48 dead inside, while the boy's sister 15 was in the backyard suffering from critical injuries. An ambulance was called to the scene, but the injured teenager died on the way to the hospital. I heard that the teenage girl Bella was trying to climb the fence to get away from her brother but didn't make it. This breaks my heart. Oh my gosh. Friends were at the house prior to these horrible murders. Peterson was looking at his mother with an evil stare, mouthing to them, "She's evil, she's the enemy," and leaning forward while staring at her. Witnesses also said Peterson was growling and talking about God and goddesses before flipping back to normal. That same day, he also went to the police station accusing his neighbor of being a serial killer. Oh my gosh, how was he not criteria for an involuntary admission? I'm going to have to cut this short as writing this makes me feel sick. If you need any additional information, I can give it to you. And if you want to word it better, that's okay, as I can't read through this to double check. It's just all too much. I can only imagine. My heart goes out to the victims, Bella, Rua, and Michelle Peterson. This happened in 2018 in Australia. It hit our community pretty hard. Bella went to our school and it was hard for everyone, but I still think it needs more recognition, as I think there were so many opportunities for it to be prevented. I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to understand why he didn't qualify to be admitted. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to read this. I love everything about your channel. I can tell you are such a genuine person and you make me feel so safe. Oh my gosh, I wish you and your family all the best. Sent with love, K. XXX. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sending this in, K. And thank you for saying that you feel safe here. That means so much to me. I definitely feel like I'm going to have to look into this more. I am just like really flabbergasted that he was not. I guess I don't really know the rules and regulations in Australia when it comes to mental health. I know like even in Canada, our resources are so limited, and that needs to change. But this is another perfect example of this being like a worldwide issue needing to be changed. All right, the next story says, "Hey Sherilyn, thank you so much for giving a platform for us to share our hard stories. This memory has heightened my emotions, so I'm sorry if this email sounds a bit confusing. I'd like to remain anonymous, but feel free to refer to me as B. I'm a 32-year-old female. I want to keep the locations and time frame vague to respect the family and friends of those involved. This short takes place in the northeast region of the US. I dated a guy you can call G. He was 18, back when I was 17, that my childhood best friend D had set me up with. G was best friends with D's boyfriend, and we were pretty excited to go do couple things together because 2 sets of best friends dating sounds like the perfect party of 4 for any activity. G and I got close, but he was a little bit less experienced than I was. So one day he asked me if I could teach him how to French kiss because he had not done that before. He was sweet and sensitive. One day he even left me flowers on my doorstep after a long day at high school. However, after about 3 months, I called it quits and decided to end the romantic relationship with the hopes we could still be friends. He was a bit clingy and seemed to be more interested in me than I was in him. So instead of leading him on, we broke up. Looking back, I'm really glad I did. Because our best friends were still dating, we hung out from time to time. It was cordial, no animosity or hurt feelings. It was only a short romance. He began to date a new girl a few months after we broke up, and I was honestly a bit relieved because he had moved on and seemed to be in a healthy relationship. A year later, I moved away for college. Our best friends broke up from each other, and we sort of lost contact. I remained Facebook friends, but rarely communicated. I even began to lose contact with my childhood best friend D. It happens sometimes as you age. I did, however, stay friends with D's now ex-boyfriend. We both studied and entered the mental health profession, different tracks and fields, but it helped for us to have a common interest. Writing this out, he is honestly the only person, except for my long-term partner, who I can have an open conversation about this situation and feel will not judge me because it affected him just as much as me. One summer, about 3 years after G and I broke up, D sent me a text message telling me to turn on the news because G was being arrested for murder. I was a few states over now, so I ended up looking it up online, and it was correct. G was being arrested for 2 counts of murder. G had murdered the same girl that he dated right after me and her mother. The healthy relationship I was happy he was in did not turn out to be so healthy. They dated for 3 years and both lived with her mom. I cannot speak on details of their relationship, but it seemed like they were doing well through Facebook. She was going to school, he had a good job, and all appeared well. Even more upsetting, he took both of their lives through a very violent and direct act. It was in pure shock that this same boy I taught to open-mouth kiss was in handcuffs and being charged with such horrible and violent murders. Oh my gosh. I followed the case closely after G was arrested. He was later diagnosed with schizophrenia by 2 psychologists and pled not guilty by reason of insanity. After a long trial, he was found guilty, received 2 life sentences for the murder of both women. I do not believe he will ever breathe free air in his lifetime. I had a lot of mixed emotions with the verdict, and to this day, I'm not sure how I feel. I think about them a lot, the girl and her mom. She seemed nice and excited for the life ahead of her. I am forever heartbroken that it was cut so short. She had long blonde hair and a kind smile. We never met, but I think about her often. I'm also filled with guilt at times because I don't hate G. I hate what he did, and he deserves to spend the rest of his life in jail, but it's hard to think the same 18-year-old boy I taught to French kiss went on to kill 2 people he supposedly loved. I remember he struggled with some depression and obsessive behaviors when we dated. He emotionally held on to things so tight and struggled with attachments. I suggested a few times to him to speak to a therapist or counselor, but it was always pushed aside as teenage angst. That is probably why I sensed I needed to end the relationship. I was just not ready for anything too serious, and he was looking for someone to hold on to. I have written him letters, but never felt comfortable to send them. I am unsure what I want to say, and I'm even more unsure if it is my place to say them. I still talk with G's best friend, who also struggles with this situation. His best friend, my ex-boyfriend, killed two innocent and lovely people. Someone we associated with being sweet and sensitive watched the light fade from two people's eyes. Could we have seen something and gotten him help before he killed anyone? Did we shrug off a red flag that could have been spotted? Rationally, I know the only person to blame for these murders is G, but I have replayed our time together many times in hopes of finding something I could have done differently. I hope G is receiving therapy during his 2 life sentences. I hope the family of these 2 lovely women are supported and cared for. I hope for more mental health education and awareness, as it has been over 10 years and I think about the situation often. I do not know what the right answers are or what to do with this kind of loss. Instead of mailing G my letters, I am glad to email you, Sherilyn. Wow. I really appreciate this vulnerability from you all who are starting to write in with stories like this, where you've got this connection to the person who's done wrong. And, by all counts, they don't deserve any sympathy or attention at all. And there's almost this piece of guilt I think that you probably carry too, even though you've had no involvement in the crime. But it's like a guilt by association. And you're running through all of these scenarios in your head of how you could have done something differently. And you can't. Well, I've said it so many times. I know that is, easier said than done to understand and accept. But I hope you know that sharing these stories, you are in turn helping somebody out there who is watching them, who is in a similar situation than you, who is associated with somebody who's done something so horrible. And you might have never seen that side of them before, or not the appropriate red flags to have done something different, and they're living with this guilt as well. So to know that they're not alone is very, very healing. So thank you all who have been so vulnerable and put out a story like this, because I know how hard that must be for you. All right, we have one more TikTok to watch today and then one more story. I was tagged in this on TikTok by Christina Weiss. And she tagged me on a woman named Jennifer Backstron's TikTok, who is looking for justice for her son, Terron Evans Jr.
My name is Jennifer Backstron. I organize and led Black Lives Matter Potsdam, New York. My son, Terron Evans Jr., moved to Potsdam just a couple weeks later. In September, he met a girl that he started dating. On January 8th, that same woman, claimed that my son committed suicide in her home. I later found out she is a police informant for the same police that I've been up against about the unsolved murder of a young boy named Garrett Phillips and the railroading of a black man named Nick Hillary, who was accused of killing Garrett Phillips. I believe my son was killed to silence me from the Black Lives Matter movement in the North Country, and also to silence me from continuing to seek justice for Garrett Phillips and Nick Hillary. Nick Hillary currently has a civil rights lawsuit against the county. I need help. My son's death was not investigated. Much was withheld from me, including the suicide note reports and more. Please help.
Oh my gosh, my heart is just aching for this mom. TikTok is so frustrating because you can't message somebody unless you guys are friends, which I guess is probably a good situation in certain scenarios. If anybody is watching this and knows Jennifer, or if Jennifer, if you are watching this, please email me. There's another video on her TikTok page that I want to share with you that goes a little bit deeper into this. Oh my gosh, this is him at these rallies, fighting for another black man who didn't get justice for his murder. Oh my gosh. Oh, Jennifer, my heart. Okay, you guys, we need to help Jennifer. Everybody, please go over to Jennifer's TikTok. Ask her to email me. I now actually have forms that you can fill out, and I have 2 different forms. Thank you, Kendall Ray, for the amazing, footsteps that you've laid out for people who want to help victims. The forms are very similar to Kendall's, I took inspiration from them where there are two different ones. So if you are directly connected to a victim or a case, there is a form for you to fill out. And if you are just giving case suggestions, you can fill that out. Keep in mind, these are two different things than the viewer submissions. All of that can still go to sherrilynstories@gmail.com. But if these are for full cases, and I'd love to bring more attention to Terron's case specifically. So Jennifer, if you could fill out one of those forms or just email me. You don't even have to film the form. Oh, my heart. All right, our last viewer submission of the day. All right, the story says, I've been wanting someone to cover my friend's murder. Here is a link to the news story. Please use names. Everyone should know what Russell Montoya did. And so this is the news report that's written. So this happened in Brighton, Colorado, and this report was written by CBS 4. It says 39-year-old Russell Montoya Jr. was convicted and sentenced Thursday of shooting a friend and hiding a body in a concrete tomb he built under his basement stairwell. Shane Nelson, described to police as a friend of 25 years to Montoya, was shot twice in the chest and once in the head during an argument between the two men on November 8th, 2019. Nelson died on Montoya's kitchen floor. Oh my gosh. According to facts established during the trial in Adams County District Attorney Court, Montoya purchased construction materials at a local hardware in the days after the shooting. He fully encased Nelson's body in concrete and, per prosecutors, attempted to mask the smell. It didn't work. According to court documents obtained by CBS 4 after his arrest, Montoya's daughter returned to their home the morning after the incident. She told investigators she walked down the stairs to the basement and she was met with an overpowering, horrible, and indescribable odor. Days later, the daughter saw a social media post reporting Nelson's disappearance. She also noticed a concrete wall in the basement laundry room appeared freshly poured, as stated in the arrest affidavit. When she confronted her father with her suspicions, he confessed. Wow, can you imagine that conversation and that bravery of this girl? When his daughter quizzed him about calling the police, Montoya promised to keep Shane company and never leave the house, even if that resulted in a shootout with police. She called anyhow, and a SWAT team executed a search warrant on November 14th, 2019, 6 days after the shooting. The gruesome nature of this crime is beyond words, said District Attorney Brian Mason. I'm grateful to the jury for enduring through the presentation of the evidence and for returning a just verdict. The trial lasted 4 days. Montoya was immediately sentenced after the verdict was read. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole for the first-degree murder charge. Montoya was also found guilty of tampering with a deceased human body. An additional 12 years was tacked on as a result. Wow. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine what his daughter was feeling in that moment of him confessing. Thank goodness she did the right thing. That probably would have been the hardest thing that she'd ever done in her life and will do in her life. Wow. How awful. This just sounds like I can't even imagine. Your friend of that long and then to encase you in a tomb. This doesn't even seem real. I'm so sorry that this happened to your friend. And like you said, everybody should know what he did. All in the same sense, though, remembering Shane. Your friend deserved so much more. Oh my gosh, you guys, today was heavy. It's always heavy, though. Thank you, everybody who submitted something. Thank you, everybody in the comments who always lends so much love and support. If you have a story that you want to submit, or if you have a TikTok or a short or a reel, any of those things that you want me to take a look at and you want to share and boost up on the platform, please do so. Like I said, if you could download that link and then email it to me, that would be great. If not, I will try to see it on TikTok if you tag me in it. But I don't know if I will because sometimes there's lots. All right, I will see you in the next video. I will miss you terribly. Until then, make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye.